Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today I want to go over what you can plant in July, mid-July. You can plant a lot of your summer crops now. We're not talking about the cool weather crops, that's a whole other video. But you can continue to plant your warm weather crops throughout the season. And I'm going to go over the different ones that you can plant now, and I'm putting a lot into the ground right now. You want to do this for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, you want to continue the harvest, for as long as you can and get food to your table. A lot of diseases and a lot of pests have cycles, and they might just be around just say for a week or for 3 weeks or for 4 weeks. So when you're planting, say, cucumbers and a pest or disease comes in, that life cycle could disappear. Your cucumber plant died off, but you have other plants in. So let's just get started with what I am planting now. Watermelon. And you want to base this on if you have 75 to 90 days before the frost comes, and I'm in Maryland, late October, maybe middle November, we'll get a frost. So you have time to plant cantaloupe right there. I just put in my watermelon transplants, and what you're looking for some of these plants that may take, traditionally longer are bush varieties. So you can find melons that are maturing in 65 days to 75 days. That's my second wave of melons right in there. So I've got the watermelons in. Coming inside, you're going to see tomato plants. It's really too late in Maryland to plant an indeterminate tomato, but you could plant determinate tomatoes. Determinate varieties mature in 60 days, 75 days, and we still have time for that. And again, we're talking about Maryland, where we get a frost, we get a freeze. If you're in places like Florida, it's probably too hot to plant anything, but you can get started planting really late August and in September again. I have more cantaloupe in there. One of the things that I'm trying to do this year is grow more melons, and there's another variety of melon in there. I will show you the different waves of plants that I have in. You can put in lima beans. These are bush lima beans, and what you're going to notice is the seed pack. This one actually says 65 to 85 days. The number of days to maturity is based on when the seeds germinate, and in the warmth of summer, these plants are going to germinate much more quickly, and they're going to grow even faster. So the date that's on the seed packs are usually longer than they're actually going to mature come, a midsummer planting. So these are lima beans. And I'm just going to put another row right in here. They get pressed in about an inch, and then we'll water them in. I'm going to talk about watering and show you a watering example, because in the heat of the summer, that's what's really going to make a big difference for the seeds that you're planting now. I will put a link in the video description to my blog, The Rusted Garden Journal, and it will have an article that goes over different plants that you can plant now, and it'll have a list for you in case you don't want to, jot all this down. Coming into this space, I have actually corn going in. I'll show you that in a second. This is my first wave of cucumbers. I've been taking care of it. It's doing well, still producing. And as we walk through the garden, you're going to see other plantings of cucumbers. For example, that is my third planting, my third wave. I'm going to do a fourth wave. So let's just stop here for a second. Green beans. You can definitely put green beans in. That's a bush variety. Basil. If you love basil, you still have time for basil. And what I'd like to do is when I put a transplant in, I also drop in some seeds so I get a continuous supply, but you have plenty of time for basil. In this space here, next to my third wave of cucumbers, I'm putting in another wave. Cucumbers take about 55 days. These are market moors. I've already put them in, and again, I like to put 3 seeds into a space, thin them down to 2, just because you don't want to wait around for, you put in 1 seed, it doesn't germinate. Put in extras, and you do have to thin them down. You don't want them to be overcrowded. But cucumbers is definitely something you can put in. So we spin around here. I'm going to start growing corn. And this is a silver and gold hybrid variety. It will mature in 65 days. I'm putting them much more closely together, at about 4 inches or so. I've planted corn densely together before. It definitely works. And these will get pushed down, about an inch or so. When it comes to watering, the soil's already really, really dry. With the heat of the sun beating down on here, the soil temperature can get up to easily 110, 120 degrees, especially that top 2 inches where your seeds are. So you're going to want to water these in well, really soak in, make sure you get moisture into that top 6-8 inches. The seeds haven't germinated. The root systems aren't all over the place. They're not pulling in water. So you're really going to probably have to water these every day. every day and do that for a good 7 to 10 days, maybe every other day if you're lucky with your temperatures, until these plants are really well established. Even after that, you're going to want to be watering every other day, every 2 days. You just don't want these to dry out, and you have to keep in mind that the sun, you know, it might be a 95-degree day, but that sun beating down on here is heating this well over 100 degrees and quickly drying out the entire space. So we have corn. In this space I'm planting pumpkins, and I've selected a bush variety. The vines only get 2 to 3 feet long. Put in 3 seeds again, and in this space actually I probably have enough room. They go down about 1 inch. Water them in, as I was saying, but you could thin them down to 2 plants if you don't have a lot of space. You just, again, don't want to put in a single seed and it never germinates because you're a little bit pressed for time. So put in extra seeds, thin them down. But when you're buying your different plants for the summer, look for the bush varieties. They can help you out, especially if you have a shorter period of time before the frost really starts to roll into your area. Let's go over to this side. This is my second wave, believe it or not, of cucumbers, and they're just beautiful. I've been keeping them going with peppermint oil and some other kinds of sprays. If you want to subscribe and follow me on YouTube, check out my cucumber care videos, and you'll see how that I take care of them. Got watermelons growing up here. As I said, I'm really focusing on melons this year. Plenty of time for another round of zucchini. This is a yellow squash. And it says on there 100 days. I don't know why it says that on the seed packet. They're going to mature much, much sooner than that. But check out the seed pack for your summer squash, your yellow squash, your zucchini. They usually mature in 45 to 60 days, so you have plenty of time. I put in 3 seeds here. You only want 1 plant growing, so you're going to have to thin it down to 1 plant. But you have plenty of time. And take notes of when you put your plants into the ground, like we're going in on 7/17. Take notes how quickly they germinate, and then track to see when they start producing. You're going to be surprised with the heat of the summer. Those dates for, you know, harvesting are really, really exaggerated. This is my second round of zucchini. This plant's not even 45 days old, and it was planted from seed. So they grow really, really quickly. Where I put in, as we come across here, those are alfalfa pellets, which I use in the garden as a fertilizer. My first zucchini was right in there, got a disease, so I pulled it out. I'm not worried about putting seeds back into the same place because your diseases show up in your garden every year about the same time. So I just keep the waves going in. We're going to come around here because in this space I had red acre cabbage. I cleared that out, and I'm putting in bush beans. Bush beans are going to be ready in anywhere from really 50 days to 60 days, and again with the warmth, much more quickly you'll be able to get a harvest. So right in here, I don't know if you can see them, but these beans are black. These are actually a yellow wax bush bean. The seeds here are brown. These are burgundy beans, and then the seeds down there, trust me, they're white. So I'm putting in green beans, burgundy beans, and yellow green beans basically, so that you can have kind of a mix of beans coming to the table, and it looks really, really good. Beans go down 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep. Again, watered in. I'm gonna, at the end of the video, if you want to see and hear a little bit more about watering, I'm gonna water these in. All right, let's see what else we can plant. These are bunching onions that were planted probably late April, early May. I've been using them. They can take a frost, so it's a little bit of cheating, but I am putting in more bunching onions into these 10-gallon fabric pots from Root Pouch. I sell these at my seed shop. If you want a container garden, Root Pouches are a great way to go. Sprinkle in the seeds pretty heavily. They're, you know, probably going to scatter 1 or 2 inches apart. Just kind of rake them into about 1/2 inch, water them in well. Again, that watering is going to be key. I always want more onions, so I'm going to keep them growing for as long as I can. And in fact, if I just slowly come over to here and show you that onion up there, that onion overwintered, and it's a bunching onion. So they can really take the frost well. I'm just leaving it in there for an experiment. So onions, you can't really grow the bulbing type onions, but bunching onions you can keep growing, you know, through spring, summer, and fall. And then I have cowpeas. Cowpeas are beans, black-eyed peas. This is a California bush variety, and I'm putting in, I don't know, about 6 of them, 3-4 inches apart into a 10-gallon fabric pot. I would do the same thing in the ground, but I would do them in a row or a square. They're going to take a little bit longer. They take 80 days to mature. But that doesn't mean it's like 80 days and you get your first bean. That's usually generally when they're producing really well. So don't be fooled by that number that may, you know, say 65, 70, 90 days. With the heat of the summer, they're going to germinate more quickly and they're going to grow more quickly. These are purple potted pole beans, not bush beans. And again, bush varieties can help you out if you don't have a lot of space or you want them to mature a little more quickly. But you do have time for pole beans also, so you don't need to just buy the bush beans. But look how beautiful they are. These all have to get harvested today. They're getting a little bit past their prime, but I'm going to be using them. All right, let's go over to the beans again and talk about watering and also the heat. So, you know, in theory, you could be like, well, I can plant my cool crops now. You really can't because it's too warm, and a lot of your cool crops would germinate. Sometimes with the heat, they don't germinate, but if they do, they very quickly go to flowering and bolting because they're so warm. Instead of making leaves like for spinach and leafy greens and stuff you enjoy to grow for the leaves, they flower and they bolt. So it's not really time for the cool weather crops. If you do want to subscribe, here is one tomato. It's just about ready. The other one's got a little bit beat up, but it's a great size. So I have plenty of videos on how you can grow tomatoes in your garden. Watering is going to be the key, but I wanted to show you the shade cloth. This is 50% shade cloth, lets in 50% light, creates 50% shade. And one of the things that you may be up against is your soil is just getting too warm, even for the seeds that are warm weather crops. So shade cloth can make a big difference. If you're in Maryland, 50% will be okay, 70% is best. That means it blocks 70% of the sun, lets 30% of the sun in. And if you're in places that are warmer than Maryland, you definitely want 70% shade cloth. But your plants can do really well like this. You can use it temporarily just to let them get established, get growing, and you can remove it if you want to. For the watering, I mean, watering is pretty straightforward, but I just want to give you in real time. When you're doing this, you really want to soak everything in. And you want to make sure the water is getting down to a good a good 6 to 8 inches, really getting in there. We don't need to fertilize the plants. If you want, after they're growing, you can give them some water-soluble fertilizer. But usually there's plenty of fertilizer in here from everything you did to set up your garden. So you just got to loosen the soil, get your seeds planted, and then you want to water them in, you know, really, really well. And again, you probably want to do this every day until they're really established, and that's going to take about 7 to 10 days. While they're underground, the roots come out first. They're going through the earth, of course, getting established, but you really just want to keep the moisture up. There's nothing worse than forgetting to water for 2 days. You have a bright sunny day and it just heats the soil up so quickly, it just fries everything that you're trying to seed start. So these are the crops that you can definitely plant in July and even in August. Please check out my blog linked in the video description. It'll give you more information about the different seeds that you can direct seed now. Thanks for watching, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com.